Okay, quick disclaimer before we get started. The Blockmates podcast is for entertainment and informational purposes only and does not constitute financial advice. The information and opinions expressed on the podcast are those of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Blockmates or its affiliates. Listeners are encouraged to do their own research and consult with a financial advisor before making any investment decisions. Blockmates and its affiliates are not liable for any losses or damages incurred as a result of the reliance on the information or opinions expressed on this podcast. Right, welcome back. We have no idea what we're going to talk about today, so bear with us, and we'll probably go on some tangents, but we'll probably look at some... Well, if there's any projects actually doing anything at the minute, it seems like the most flat day in existence. I thought we were supposed to go from sell in May, walk away to when Moon June, but obviously it doesn't look like that way just yet. But US hasn't opened yet, but...
Can I just interrupt this with a message from our sponsors? So I received this the other day, and this is from one of the latest, greatest sponsors of the Blockmates podcast. It is Nutkisser. This is your premium anti-friction cream. If you're a cyclist out there, get yourself some Nutkisser. I've been doing a lot of cycling right now, ladies and gentlemen. I can tell you that Nutkisser keeps my nuts focused. For a 10% discount, just put in Dan's Nut Kisses 10.
So we're not getting any money.
Why did I even bother coming onto this stream? It's like
you know what? Completely... Fuck it, I'm done.
How was your balls down there chafing?
Mate, they were chafing horrifically, and I told my old man this. And like literally randomly, like the DPD guy comes up with a package. I'm like, oh, I've not ordered anything. I literally opened it and I'm just like, nut kisses. Oh yeah.
How much are you doing at the minute? Like because if anyone isn't following Dan this show, just for he's like the Blockmates David Goggins. But what are you doing at the minute?
So basically, like I was bored one night and like I wanted a new challenge, so I signed up for this. They call it like the world's most brutal duathlon, and essentially it is. And I'm doing the small one, but the small one is actually like a rather large one. So it's essentially you do a 5 mile off-road run, then you do a 100k bike ride, and then you run up and down a mountain. And if you were to do the bigger one, you basically do 3 laps of the run at the start, so it's 15 miles. Then it's a 170-mile bike ride, and then you still finish running up and down a mountain. And I was just like super bored, so I'm doing a lot of cycling, a lot of running, and I'm applying a hell of a lot of nut kisser.
Can't believe we actually opened the show with that.
It's our new sponsors, dude. We have to.
I wish it was.
No, they are not our new sponsor. You just made that up so that you could tell everyone what it is that you're putting on your balls.
But if you do need a 10% discount, just tag in Dan Nut Kisses 10. I'm a Nut Kisses sponsored athlete.
What's been happening out there, boys?
Oh, I think we need to at some stage talk about this, because these guys are building some super cool shit.
Yeah, they've got a lot going on, haven't they? Should we start with the corn and then work our way?
So I've been speaking about this whole idea quite a bit, particularly this year, that because we've had the last kind of like 16 to 18 months, probably even longer than that, where there's been this heavy correlation between crypto and the traditional finance markets. Most of the time, I mean, there've obviously been moments where, everyone gets hopeful and there's going to be this great and wonderful decorrelation, but we know that's not going to happen anytime soon. And the week is just an absolute shit show for crypto, and it's just down only, and people are crying, and the life of crypto gets sucked out of it. And then come the weekend, and all of a sudden it's like it's the old days, like people are aping into all sorts of things, and like charts are going one way up, and it's just like euphoria within like 18 hours of the weekend, and then come Monday morning it all just goes to shit again. What the hell is going on, guys? Like, when is this actually ever going to stop, or is that the story of our lives from here on out?
Well, just I kind of got... like this volume profile here from March. It's just fucking dead. Everyone's pivoted to AI.
It's all the AI bots failing.
I don't know. Obviously a new month, but like the TARDFi guys look like they're having a great time.
That the volume chart is actually very telling on this when you look at it. I mean, we've never seen volume like that before, like ever.
It's I wonder. Sorry, go on, Dan.
I was going to say, Cantor and Clark was right. Everybody has gone to the Hamptons and they are enjoying like cheese sandwiches by the golf course.
They'll be back in September, though. It's what he said, right? Over the last 50 years, we've seen a definitive lull between May through to September where the guys take the time off, and then come September, it all starts kicking off again.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at ETH quickly, and then the ETH BTC as well. I've been seeing some interesting movements. So ETH is pretty much, I mean, ETH has been pretty strong the last week or so. I mean, it went over 1900 and looked really good. And then take a look at ETH BTC.
Oh, where have I got that one? Yeah, on the weekly, not bad, eh? Well, we've kind of got over we've got over Shanghai, and then we've obviously got over Lido withdrawals going live as well. So we can 100% definitely say anyone who is expecting like a major sell-off following that event should be immediately blocked and unfollowed. No names mentioned. But yeah, it seems to kind of everyone's kind of adjusted to the new situation of being able to withdraw their ETH and deposit at whim, and the new advent of liquid staking derivative protocols. And yeah, I think there was just a bit of uncertainty what was happening with ETH at the time, but now it just seems to be just going to continue the trend it had prior to all this kind of talk and narrative. So I don't know. I'm much more of an ETH bull than a Bitcoin bull personally, but we'll just have to see. Every time it looks like it's going to break out of that ETH BTC pair, then just gets smashed back down. There's so many people watching it, but I don't know.
I have a question around a narrative that we've spoken extensively about, and everyone knows about it. Liquid stake derivatives, LSD, we make our jokes, we take our psychedelics, everything's great, but we seem to be really coming into that narrative even more so, where we obviously had Libra do a launch. Things were really not really happening for them. I mean, it was down only for that chart. Market landed up realizing, hold on a second, there's a whole lot of really positive aspects to what it is that they are bringing to the table. And it just went up only. And it seems like we've found our equilibrium here, where it's retraced quite dramatically. I think it's done like a 50% retrace after obviously having done like a 10x from that critical point. And the reason why I bring Libra up is because I think the kind of like, we talk about the fast forward nature of how crypto, just like everything's accelerated, everything's in fast forward. You kind of like never really have an opportunity to catch up, but you see market moves in such a short space of time that you normally see in TradFi over like 6 months, a year. You see it in like a week in crypto. And what we're seeing now in the LSD narrative, and I'd really like to get your take on it, is what is essentially the landscape of this? I mean, I know that there's a tremendous amount of ETH out there that isn't staked. What's it, like $18 billion that isn't staked, and it's a very small percentage of it that is. And I think there's an even smaller percentage that isn't being staked to its full potential. Now, obviously, there's a lot on the table here for everyone to come and play, but I almost get the feeling like people are feeling threatened by competition coming in. Some aren't, some don't care because they realize that, listen, there's a lot there. But dare I say it, I almost feel like, just in terms of what I've seen on Twitter, I almost get the feeling like maybe the big boys in this game at the moment, namely Lido, are feeling like, hold on a second, like, is everyone now coming to take our action? You know, I don't know. What are your thoughts around it? Like, do you think there is a little bit of that happening? I see there's some VCs getting involved now. There was Protocol Prisma, I think it is. So the game is on right now. I think we obviously have been calling the LSD narrative, but I really think it's going to start coming into play like big time over the next few months.
Yeah. So my perspective on it has always been that because there is no time duration risk on staking with on the Beacon chain prior to Shanghai. So people who were staking at that point in time, they didn't necessarily know when they were going to get round to getting their ETH back. So you could have pretty high conviction to do that during that time. And I think it was around 15% prior to Shanghai going live. So I think we said a few times that staking participation definitely increases because there is no time duration risk on being able to withdraw that ETH if anything was to happen and you needed access to instant liquidity. So that's true as of now at 18.17%. I think that continues. If we look at what the hell are they called? Stake. I can't remember that fucking name. So it's a dashboard that shows you the staking participation of all L1s. I should know their name as well. I can't remember it. But ETH staking participation is drastically lower than near enough all the major kind of alternative L1s, if you will, which is interesting. And I can only see that increasing. Well, previously proof of work, wasn't it? So it's just kind of as soon as a beacon chain was even a thing, you've got a long kind of learning curve for people to understand what's happening there. You obviously get your maxis who understand every ounce of what's happening, and that was probably where the 15% was made up of. And then now you're starting to see more liquid staking providers come onto the market, and that imagine the percentage of staking participation across ETH definitely increases because there's more providers. The ones who can make it as low barrier to entry for the average person will probably do well, like Coinbase with their CB ETH. Literally out of the app, stake your ETH with us. Hence why they've got like 10% market share of liquid staking at the minute. And then you've obviously got Binance as well. Got Kraken, which obviously had to get wound down because of the order from whoever it was, SEC or whatever it was. And then and now you're starting to see more DeFi native protocols come online to enable that or enhance that. And they're starting to kind of catch their bid. Swell, they look like they've got a good thing going on. And there's going to be a million. There's going to be a million and more because it's just such a big opportunity for people now. And yeah, I just think staking participation will increase. I think Lido will potentially lose market share a little bit as new protocols come online. There's larger incentives. Capital just follows incentives effectively. We know that in this space, even if it's short-lived, but over the long term, I'd expect Lido still to be the winner. But I do think they slowly start to lose market share. It's just the same thing as if you think back to some of the first stable coins. Obviously, they were 80-90% of the market, and now that there's more stable coins come online, it's just a natural progression of the larger variety and the larger opportunities. Then they start to lose that, but it's just a new paradigm, and it hasn't been available on Ethereum prior until now. So it's going to be interesting. We've got a report coming out on all the emerging LSD projects next week. So if you want to keep an eye on our Twitter or the website, then you should see that. But there's a lot of them, some that you wouldn't even necessarily realize. And a lot of projects pivoting as well. People who've got infrastructure products pivoting. It's all really beginning to bubble up. And just because we think we had that huge run from the turn of the year, beginning of January, where everyone did well off, like Rocket Pool and IDO and Stakewise and things like that ran and did multiples. I think that was just kind of a test pump for the whole basket of assets, I think. So
you then see this being the thing that is the catalyst to actually spur on another, I guess, DeFi bull run, like when the time's right and when the time's right for like TradFi to come back in.
If everything settles and there isn't any major headwinds, yeah, I'd imagine that to happen. It's like what's happening now in the Web 2 space. Everyone's mentioning that they're an AI project or they're an AI company. Every project has to have some connotation or overlap with liquid staking derivatives. And if they're not seen to be, then they're going to lose attention share or lose kind of mind share of the audience. So it's an interesting one because there's if you think about it, there's obviously direct liquid staking players like Lido, Rocket Pool, Stakewise, a few others like Swell, and then you've got like the yield generating or capital efficiency players around it like Libra and Unsheeth and stuff like that. And then you've got picks and shovels players like Pendle and Flashstake and even Y2K with their V2 because they're going to have ways to hedge stake depegging from ETH and stuff like that. So there's a million and one ways that people can benefit from it. It's just kind of picking the fastest horse in this basket of assets, in my opinion.
Interesting.
So what I found really interesting about the function of staking and then obviously using emissions to generate incentives to attract capital obviously has its limitations, right? Because emissions can only last for so long before it essentially like robs itself of that Ponzonomic that's in place. But it's almost like necessary if you want to bootstrap just the function of something like that. And there's been quite a bit written about it, but people seem to focus on, the short-term aspect of kind of like that strategy. How do you attract the capital? And then more importantly, how do you create a sticky environment for that capital to stick around? Do you believe that there are better strategies around that? Or do you think it's kind of like almost like a copy and paste? Or do you think we're going to see like serious innovation around how this dynamic works, either if you're bootstrapping versus whether you're looking for VC capital to keep it more sustained over a period of time?
I think the projects that just think they can throw emissions at everything and that will allow people to stick around it's the exact same thing of what we've seen with lending and borrowing protocols, and exactly the same thing we've seen of like pool 2 dexes where people come whilst emissions are high. If you want to put that on steroids, have a look what happens when someone forks a solidly dex.
Yeah.
They just jump. Or have a look at what happened in home season. They just jump from vault to vault, extracting as much value as they can and move on to the next one. They don't necessarily give a shit. It's the ones the protocols that will win are the ones that can still increase the amount of emissions that they put out, but their revenue is greater than the emissions they get from actually doing that. So think about like, I don't know. So Lido have a small team that will like look and sit. Carvos, the guy's name is. So his job was to look at protocols where Lido can incentivize people to deposit into these specific protocols with their staked ETH. And their job was to look at it and go, well, how much are we going to get returned for every dollar in LDO spent? in the protocols that aren't doing these internal models and looking at if we spend $1 million this week in LDO, how much does that generate us from protocol and liquidity or revenue generated from the specific protocol? And are we running in the red? Are we running in the green? Are we running like neutral? And it's a lot easier for the larger protocols. It's just economies of scale to be able to figure that out. So the protocols that will survive are where revenue is greater than emissions. You can't just keep throwing emissions at protocols forever. I think the Tapioca guys have kind of thought long and hard about that and the way that they're going to do it with incentivizing longer duration of sticky liquidity via giving people a greater discount to purchase TAP through the options tokens that they've kind of innovated on. So, but I suppose if you're a mercenary capital farmer and you can find these opportunities and you're not going to get dragged into a honeypot or a rug and you want to just kind of play that game, there's going to be ample opportunities. But you can't just throw emissions at everything forever because it doesn't work. We've seen that multiple times. I think.
And what do you think like Solana's response will be? Or do you think will Solana ever get into the LSD kind of like realm?
Yeah, well, Lido have got a SOL liquid staking token. It's just stake SOL. They've had it for a while. But I don't think the onus of the Solana community is really pushing decentralization as much as Ethereum is. And a lot of Solana's APR is certainly coming just from direct emissions because the fees on the network aren't amazing because they're so low, which is good further down the line. But when it's cost prohibitive for people to be validating a network if they weren't getting effectively subsidized by Solana emissions, it's a funny one. But yeah, like they've had stake SOL, they've got M SOL, which is Marinade's liquid wrapper of it. There's a few more as well. I can't really remember off the top of my head. But yeah, anything that's kind of proof of stake or kind of in that remit will have a liquid staking wrapper, I think now. Like even Anchor that's on screen now, they've got a wide variety of different assets that they can offer liquid staking derivatives for. But the Ponzi-nomics of ETH are just really, really good for implementing liquid staking derivatives. I think are much, much better than any other L1.
Yeah, fair. Makes sense.
I'm very curious to see how this develops in terms of essentially all the copycats that will come in, because I mean, who's to say that they are copycats? It's just essentially taking a proven method and then trying to improve on it. Obviously, you're going to get guys who are just going to copy and paste directly, and it will really be interesting to see how the capital gravitates. I mean, the capital on this thing came in, I mean, they were at 185 mil TVL and they did it in like 10 days. It takes protocols their entire lifetime of years to do that. And these guys did it in 2 weeks. The price obviously needed to correct. It did exactly what would have been expected. I mean, I think all the TA nerds probably called it exactly where it's been bouncing there. In fact, they did, because that's a major area of support. I mean, that was like 6 days of accumulation at that level. And it's like I said, it's like that chart looks like a whole market, like a market trend of something that's been around for 10 years.
Yeah, if that was a weekly chart, you'd be like,
that's a weekly chart. I mean, that looks like a weekly chart for anything, and that's all. What that all happened in the space of 10, 12 days.
That's insane to think, isn't it? Like literally how fast paced that was, and then everybody started jumping on it. And I remember seeing like all the tweets like Libra to $10 to $10. I mean, yeah, maybe, but not in 10 days.
Not now. I think it needed to. This is probably the best thing that could have happened. And what you need all the guys who didn't get in to get in now, and then they can stop with their whinging. And like it's just amazing how this market just takes care of that.
I'd take that as a subtle hint.
Oh, was it?
There's definitely a subtle dig, because I know I'd been whinging about misordering it the whole way up. And then
a lot of people didn't see this one coming, and there's more coming that they won't see. Like I said, the weekends it's playtime for crypto, and it's been really cool to see over the last sort of like 6 weekends in a row. It's just been, meme season kicked it off. We watched Pepe do like a quadrillion% in like 20 minutes. I mean, that stuff you can't find anywhere else. It's just wonderful.
Well,
there's still like bangers. There's still like bangers launching every single day in the microcap world. It's mad. Like some of these tokens will literally launch an hour later, they're at 7 million, retrace, and then there's one that just like rocketed straight to 30 mil. I'm just like, pardon me, what's this?
Did you see what happened with Unsheath today?
Oof.
Tell us about that, Grant, because you had obviously just woken up. You were getting on with your day, and this all went down. I saw that you made some tweets around it, and tell us what happened.
Yeah, so Unsheath, let me bring up that site afterwards. Where's it at? We're going to have them on.
WagMe33 did a really good post.
Yeah, that's one of the founders. So they're coming on the podcast next week. So yeah, this was doing extremely well. It obviously had its run up a lot earlier than a lot of other LSD kind of narrative players. So it's effectively like a one-stop shop for all things that are required for liquid staking. So like unified pools for swapping, different kind of avenues for staking and stuff like that. So the issue came today when, let me see if I've got him on here. So this is one of the founders. So yeah, here we go. So approximately 2 p.m. Sorry, let me start again. Put my teeth back in. 1400 hours in UTC. One of the deployer private keys for Unsheath contracts was compromised. So that sounds a bit weird in and of itself, but they haven't actually announced like how they think that it's been compromised. So out of the abundance of caution, we have emergency pause withdrawals on Unsheath Ether. Given our security model, Unsheath Ether deposits 35 million TVL are secured via multi-sig and time lock and are not at risk. So the vast majority of the assets deposited in the protocol were not like available for attack, obviously, because they're running on a time lock and a multi-sig. So that wasn't the issue. So it was which faults was it again? It was effectively, he's said it in here, I just can't find it. Right, so he's effectively managed to get away with 370k. They've put out a bounty of 50k, like as a white hat bounty. Is that enough, do you think? Would you take that if you were a white hat hacker and you had 375k? Maybe so. So if you were following some of the deployer wallet transactions on Etherscan, it was showing that there was interaction from the person who's kind of made off with these funds. And effectively, he'd basically said, I'm gonna return the account back into the hands of the team. So not the funds, but the actual control of the specific parts of the contract deployer that were affected, and allowed him to make away with the funds. So that's all kind of being handled correctly. What was really strange is someone had obviously emailed the team immediately as they found out and said, "Oh, I'm the hacker, blah blah blah, transfer me, blah blah blah." And this guy responded saying there was no email from me, but I will transfer the contract ownership to your address safe later. So immediately as something happens, there's always just some little fucker waiting in the wings just to try and like add insult to injury. But they seem like they've got their shit together now. Everything looks back to be under control of the team. It's unknown if the full funds are going to come back in and he's going to accept that 50k white hat bounty effectively. So, but yeah, it's kind of kicking the teeth. I'm glad I kind of slept through half of this downwick because I've got a position and I think it was like a 70% drawdown. What was that? Top to, yeah, 67%-ish. So recovered quite well after the Etherscan messages back to the team. But, it's just another fucking day, isn't it? It's getting really boring and tiring.
I actually watched a little snippet of a podcast, an interview. I apologize that I don't remember who it was, but he basically spoke about the importance of insurance within the DeFi space. And I think from a conceptual perspective, I think it's quite brilliant, really. But the thing is, who's going to actually underwrite it, and at what premiums are you going to land up underwriting something like that?
No,
can you please insure my $250 million protocol in terms of TVL? Sure, your premiums will be $500 million or whatever the case might be. It's like, yeah. But it will happen. I promise you, someone will design a product that will end up facilitating for that kind of stuff.
I'm fairly sure there's one there. Yeah.
There's been a few that have tried it, but it's never seemed to work. I mean, the closest you're going to get to actual free market insurance is Y2K, and that's betting on the DPEGs of stablecoins and staked assets. But I think they've got a few more tricks up their sleeve with regards to what people can, because all it is a power mutuals market, right? It's a dual outcome market. Will it DPEG? Won't it DPEG? So as long as you've got that risk engine and that kind of vault to be able to detect that, and the Oracle coming in that's feeding the data into it to let the smart contract make a decision. I think it uses like Gelato on the back end. What if you've got people willing to deposit into a vault to protect, or say that a specific bridge isn't going to get hacked in the space of a year? Like shit like that. You can get really inventive of what you can allow people to underwrite. And if Y2K have showed anything with their first series of vaults, there was people getting paid 40x on the USDC DPEG. Someone got put one ETH in, it DPEGs, 40 ETH paid out instantly. So I think there's definitely appetite for it. They've had over $130 million deposited in their vault since inception. So,
wow.
But the Nexus Mutual and shit like that, they apparently they're gonna get like, there's gonna be some, because they're below RFV at the minute, so their treasury is below market cap. So apparently they're going to do some buybacks to get it back up to parity. We'll see. I don't believe anything what anyone says anymore.
Jedi, or
a very important story that's come out in the mix over the last week has obviously been the multi-chain arrests from kind of like Shanghai police and the rest of it. And what's obviously we've spoken about this before, but what's really interesting about that is that how important decentralization is, and more importantly, how decentralization like really determines whether your protocol lands up being rendered incapable. These guys, I know that someone actually said that bridges aren't really decentralized, and they like are a big problem in this whole equation. And I think multi-chain is essentially putting a whole lot of protocols at risk. I mean, we've been speaking to a couple of protocols that essentially can't do what they need to do because they're sitting on outlying ecosystems and they can't get back to mainnet, they can't get back to any of the significant L2s, and they can't do anything. And that's just because of one product and one protocol.
Yeah, it's a bit mental, isn't it, that?
So it's interesting how you find that it takes always these extreme like events to identify like all the weaknesses that are present, you know, particularly with the DeFi narrative, particularly with everything, but because crypto is this accelerated space, you just get to see the brutality of it in such a stark way. I mean, does Layer Zero have the same problem? Potentially.
Mm-hmm. But the same thing is, like, should any one person be effectively a dead man switch for a product? That shouldn't happen regardless of who you are. And that's the kind of case of what's happened now. They can't access one of the primary servers that is connected to some less than popular chains, to put it politely. RIP to all those who've got their life savings stuck on Keck chain, because that one's kind of down and out now. But like, it's effectively what it is, isn't it? If one person's taken out the equation for like any act of God, the full protocol should not be suffering off the back of it. That's just should be kind of a given. But again, if it just shows anything, it's just like the ones who look like they've got their shit together are often the ones that just don't have a fucking clue what's going on. And
it's
I know
also
it's
quite interesting. Go on.
No, go on. I was just ranting.
I was just going to say, what's also quite interesting is what's come to light today is the Multichain CEO's gone missing. So they're not actually able to contact him. So unable to contact a CEO who solely holds server access because suddenly one of the servers is down and he's the only one that can, like, you know, flip the green switch and I guess make it better again. So I think this multi-chain story is getting like a lot dirtier by the day, you know, especially when people go missing.
Maybe he's stuck on the bridge. He can't get out.
Yeah.
He's stuck in his own bridge. He tried to go to Kickchain well.
Does this individual have a direct access to what is the TVL on this thing? Like $1.5 billion?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that'd be.
There'd be no way you could ship that out. Like, there is no way to off-ramp that. Like, sure, your MetaMask looks cool, but you're not getting that out.
Yeah. So what a lot of people don't realize is that there is that next step, and you don't just do that just because you feel like hitting a button. Just that ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
So
you can be an internet millionaire, but like, if you can't get it out, and this is what really pisses me off. Everyone's like, "Oh, we want the banks to fail. The banks fail." No, you don't, dipshit. The banks fail. You can't get your cryptocurrencies out. Like, are you that stupid? We want the dollar to go to Goblin Town. No, you don't, because what is everything pegged to? The US freaking dollar. So not only are my like bags going down, the dollar's going down. So things are doubling down. So you try and switch a dollar into like the Great British Pound, and it's just like, well, this is pointless. You know, I might as well just like go swap some peanuts for something.
We'll all use Lightning Network, Dan. Didn't anyone tell you?
Mate, I did research into Lightning Network. Michael Saylor, please hurry up, mate. I know you are building on there and doing some, like, you know, I don't know what you're doing, but you're doing something over there. But just hurry up. Because I don't want Cardano to come out of nowhere and like start being the #1 chain for stablecoins, and it's DJed or whatever it is. Stupid coin.
Yeah.
An important topic that you raised on Good Morning DJ. And so for listeners, viewers, if you didn't know, we've got another podcast stream that covers I think more fun topics around what's happening in the space. I think this morning's one was particularly cool around earning real money out of GTA, but you must watch that. So just go check it out. But you mentioned you recorded at the beginning of the week the whole Optimism unlock, like 500 mil coming out, and I'm just curious, has your opinion changed around this? Are we going to see a delayed response around, obviously, token price? Where's this thing at the moment, besides it looking like it's going down only?
Yeah, it's definitely down. I think it's down like 11% since we started bringing this up. So where are we at there? Yeah, it's like 11.5%. It's been down to like 16%. But what was really interesting about it, you get big unlocks all the time. This one was particularly big. So it was like 580 million. And what you'll see on here from the guys at token.unlocks.app, which is really good. So this unlock here was the start of this huge cliff. And guess what that blue and that green is?
VC money.
Yeah, core contributors and investors. So effectively, it wasn't the fact that there was an unlock. Sometimes an unlock can be for, I don't know, airdrops, what's this say, governance funding, retroactive public goods, treasury. But the telling thing was this was the first time that core contributors and investors got their hands on these OP tokens. So that's why it was particularly interesting at such a large amount as well. It wasn't...
It's a race to dump. That's what that was.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly.
I mean, Wintermute landed up moving $4 million worth of Optimism tokens to Binance just before this unlock anyway. So it's like the boys are playing, it's like, why would you hold on to this token? Are you going to wait 2 years for it to recover? I don't think so.
No, like that's quite hefty vesting schedule you got there. And by the time you're listening to this, we should have released an article on what we think is a really strange social experiment in WorldCoin. And WorldCoin are going to actually use the OP stack to launch their own chain. I don't know what they're up to. It's just another Sam Altman. Give me real SBF vibes, this guy. But yeah, it's quite a murky article when you read into kind of what they've kind of done to onboard their first million users and stuff like that. So you can check that out. By the time you listen to this, it should be on the website on the front page. But again, it's just another case of having very, very coincidentally timed protocol upgrades or big catalysts around very, very hefty dumps. But they've got Base coming soon, they've got Bedrock coming soon. And obviously this WorldCoin thing is going to take center stage. So, but it looks like they haven't timed it quite correctly because the sell-off appears to be underway.
I mean, we wouldn't have a complete stream this week if we didn't mention AI and just everything that's obviously happening in the space. Obviously, it's topical. A lot of the stuff will end up falling by the wayside, like all these kind of like popular trends. But what's interesting from my perspective anyways, is that, protocols, and I see now as well, ecosystems. I read this morning that Solana's essentially integrated AI into the blockchain itself. I mean, I don't understand exactly how they're going to do that, but they spent a whole lot of money. They basically put in ChatGPT plugin that will integrate into Solana. And it's just going to be really interesting to see. I mean, like AI that basically like optimizes yields, returns. AI that recommends, that you don't go and ape into that shitcoin because you're going to go broke. I don't know. But I mean, it's just going to be really interesting to see how AI gets to play this part of, determining outcomes. I mean, already the guys are using it for design in protocols and the rest of it. It's just, I'm finding that to be really interesting in the space at the moment. And then obviously, like people are copying and pasting what ChatGPT is doing, or is telling them so that they can post it as their post on Twitter. A lot of that is happening. There was a dude who posted a reason why Jamie Dimon was a good presidential candidate, and then immediately underneath that post, I mean, this dude's got like 710,000 followers. some other guy landed up posing the same exact question to ChatGPT, and the answer was exactly what that guy put in his thread. So that's also fun as well. I think that's fun as well, because now people are going to design AI that's going to essentially pick out content that's written by AI. And it's like, dude, use your own brain. Don't use AI to do it for you. And it's going to be interesting how that plays out.
Yeah, his ghostwriter's getting sacked in the morning there, isn't he? Charging him a couple of grand for a tweet, and he's just pulling it out of ChatGPT and slapping it on Twitter.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think some of our writers are using ChatGPT to write their articles because they're so fucking quick.
The thing is, though, that you can, if you know how to curate ChatGPT, like if you know what you're doing, you can actually come up with some really good content, and you can put it out there, and you can add your own spin to it. But that's just how you teach that. I don't know. Do you call it an algo? Do you call AI an algorithm? Or would you just straight up call it?
You give it a cute name. That's what you do.
So that's what you've done, right? Now we know that you really are living in your mom's basement. Okay, that's fine.
This is all AI generated around me. All AI generated.
Dan's fallen in love with an AI.
I'm not going to bring my AI Pamela out again, just in case. This is a PG show after all.
I mean, the thing is that even though we can make fun of AI, and there's obviously a lot of like useless stuff around it, and there always will be, but I think it's really going to set a precedent in terms of how just things are done into the future, like how people write, how people interact, how people design things to maybe accommodate AI. It's just like, take your crystal ball and start making your calls, gentlemen, because it's really an interesting space that's unfolding before us.
It's also like I was just going to say, like one of the presenters on Bloomberg, her kids write like a long essay out, put it into ChatGPT,
yes.
asks what mark it's going to get, and if it's not the mark that they want, they then work out the way of editing the passage of text or essay they've done so that they can get better grades further down the line. It's genius. Absolutely genius.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if we had that at school? Oh my god.
Yeah, it's insane. Hey boys, I mean, there's a lot. Yeah, we're good. I think let's call it. I think generally speaking, just to round it off, it's a little bit of a strange week this, because I think we had that long weekend. Everything was just like, I mean, Libra was kind of like the real catalyst that led the charge, and then coming to Tuesday, it all just deflated. I mean, like Nvidia had that huge march up. I mean, everyone knows about what Nvidia and the AI thing, and now it's kind of like retracing. I'm still trying to find a place where I can short the bloody thing, but I'm not succeeding. Why can't crypto get synthetics right and all that kind of stuff? Anyway, so yeah, it's been a weird week, but we carry on. Please like and subscribe. It's good to see you, lads.
Yeah, and the newsletter is below, so those are goodies in that one. If you want to subscribe, that's below. Don't want anything from you, just subscribe, and yeah, we'll see you next week.